Happy Thursday, NFL Week 5. This is the No Glitz, No Glamour, sometimes daily video from Bankster DFS. We are looking at the Thursday night football showdown between the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. My name is Doug Shane, representing BanksterDFS.com, where we do cover more than just NFL football. We cover it all the major sports, all the college sports, all the niche sports with multiple articles, slates, player pools every single week. And we do have a Slack chat with the channels for all those sports and bonus channels like sports cards, sports betting, Bankster University, which is our training wing, partnership with PrizePicksDFS.com, where you can get a 100% first-time deposit bonus on your first deposit up to $100. Promo code in the description below with a link. You can use the promo code Bankster as well. With that Bankster DFS membership, you do get the daily player pools, as I said, for all major college and niche sports, the Slack chat for all the channels that we have, award-winning articles and analysis from FSWA award winners like myself, Doug Shane, and Jeff Kaminsky. And we do a members-only live stream most days. Today it's going to be Brunch with Bankster at 11:15 a.m. Eastern. That time changes every day depending upon what my schedule looks like. But we do a live stream for members only where we talk about whatever you want to come and talk about. You come in, we chat, we get ready for whatever DFS you want to look at. And all of it, everything we do, $3.99 per week. You can lower that effective cost by getting monthly or yearly memberships. And please remember, your price will never increase as long as you stay a member with us and don't cancel. And no matter what our price goes up to for new members, it will stay the same for you when you sign up. Right now, $3.99 per week. Bankster DFS, everything, all sports, all content, no hidden fees. If you have questions, contact me on Twitter at Bankster17. You can subscribe at banksterdfs.com/subscribe. You can always put a comment in the video link below. If you have a question, I can look into here as well. If you want more NFL content every Sunday morning, streaming live on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, is myself and Michael Gudadero, NFL Live Before Lock, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, taking you up to 12 o'clock. We're going to look at your cash games, your GPPs, answer your questions, and go over the inactives every Sunday morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, NFL Live Before Lock. And while you're here, please like, share, subscribe. Click that notification icon so that you are aware when we have new videos, new live streams, and all the other fun stuff that we're doing. And again, members only, you can head on over to our Facebook page, friend me on Bankster DFS, and you'll be eligible to come watch the live streams every single day. But right now, let's talk about Thursday night football. Are you ready? We've got a good game. Not to say that the last few weeks have been bad games, right? That Panthers game wasn't awful, besides the McCaffrey injury. And then this past week's game between the Jaguars and the Bengals was actually a really fun game. But now we got a real game. Now we've got the Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, two of the better teams in the NFC going at it in Seattle. And there's a lot of fantasy goodness. Not the fantasy wasteland that one of my friends, Justin, likes to call these Thursday night games. No, sir, no fantasy wasteland this week. A lot of options. First place I'm looking at, honestly, there's so much talk on Twitter right now about Robert Woods and what's going on with Robert Woods. And something's up with Woods. He's getting a ton of snaps. Still seeing over 90% of the snaps on the season. Saw 96% of the snaps last week. And he's got an 18.5% target share. 6 or more targets each of the last 3 weeks. Scored a touchdown in 2 of his 4 games. Not getting a ton of rushing attempts, but we know that's in there. Scored double digits in 3 or 4 weeks this year. But he's not really doing a ton. He needed a last second touchdown last week to even get to the 14.8. And really, he's not 3xing his price. He's not really coming close to 3xing his price. And that's not good for where we kind of expect Robert Woods to be at. And he's definitely a tournament type play, I suppose, because people are down on him. But honestly, the better player right now is Van Jefferson. Jefferson's not seeing the snap count. Absolutely not. He's only seeing 68% of the snap counts last week, 76% on the season, getting a 13% target share, which is 5.5% less than where Woods is at, though he does have 6 targets each of the last 2 weeks. He's more of a downfield threat, not going to get the rushing game work, has gone over 16 points twice, which Woods hasn't done yet this year. He's running almost as many routes per game as Robert Woods, and for the season, he's only ran 12 less routes than Robert Woods. So while Robert Woods is in there for more snaps, he's going to be in there a lot for rushing downs, whereas Jefferson's not going to be there on rushing downs. And Woods has actually stayed in to pass block 3 times this year, which Jefferson hasn't done. Now, that's not a ton, but over the course of a season, if you're running 15 less routes during pass routes because you're staying into block, that will make a difference somewhere along the way. Van Jefferson's yet to drop a pass this year. Robert Woods has a 16% drop rate, which is really high for a guy of Woods' caliber. The ADOT is just not there for Woods. He's at a 9.8 ADOT, whereas Van Jefferson's at a 13.9 ADOT. He's getting targets further down the field, and it's not an anomaly. It's not like a Deshaun Jackson only gets a couple targets a game, so that ADOT is pushing 20. Jefferson sees, 4 to 6 targets per game, or 3 to 6 targets if you look at the stats in front of you per game. So he's getting pushed the ball down. He's getting the ball pushed down the field towards him. He's got bigger play upside. And honestly, Stafford has just been better when targeting Jefferson than targeting Robert Woods. When targeting Woods, he has a 111.8 passer rating, which is great. But when Matt Stafford targets Van Jefferson, he's at a 151.4 rating. Van Jefferson, I think, at his price, he's $5,600. $4,800. I'm looking at Tyler Higbee. $4,800 in the captain spot if you wanted to use Jefferson there, and I kind of think I do. He's only at $7,200, and using a guy like Jefferson allows us to spend up elsewhere on our team. But where else do we want to spend? Well, let's take a look at what these teams are doing right now. Defensively, where are the Rams weak? They've been terrible, for the most part, against the run. Really good against the pass. They gave up 400 yards to Tom Brady, but there was a lot of catch-up being played there, and they really stuffed the running game. I believe that's the game where the Patriots, Tom Brady, right, where the Buccaneers decided to try to play Ronald Jones a little bit, which clearly didn't work. And so they were just throwing the ball all over the field. But other than that, they haven't given up more than 250 yards in any game this year, which is not good for Russell Wilson. But the running game, they've given up over 100 yards in 3 or 4 games. The only game they didn't was against the Buccaneers. So that's a good sign for the Seahawks running game, which let's talk about that for a second. Chris Carson probably isn't playing. He's got a pretty bad neck injury, and I don't think he's going to end up being active, which means Alex Collins is going to be in the game. And I know there's, again, talk out in the Twitterverse about, Alex Collins isn't that great, blah, blah, blah. Maybe. But we've seen Alex Collins play well in the past as a starter for both Seattle and Baltimore when he had the chance in the past. And Collins' snap share was going up anyway the last couple weeks. 26% snaps in week 3, 35% last week. He's probably going to see 60 to 70% of the snaps if Carson is out in this game, particularly in non-passing downs. But even in passing downs, he caught 2 passes last week. And Collins is really good inside the 10-yard line. He's a bigger back, and he's got some power, and he's actually fairly elusive. If you watched him run last week, looked a lot like Marshawn Lynch. I've always thought Alex Collins deserved a shot in the NFL to be a starting running back for a longer term, and so this week he might get his shot. I really like him at his price point. I also think because Collins is going to have to fill in a little bit for, a lot for Carson, that you will see an opportunity to get Travis Homer in the game. Homer did not see a lot of snaps, like under 15% snaps. Nothing really last week, but he is a pass-catching back, and I do think he'll get some third down work, kind of in the role Jeremy McNichols plays for Tennessee. I don't know if he'll get the target volume we saw from McNichols last week when he went, I think, 12 targets last week. Probably not getting that at a homer here, but if the Rams go up, and I kind of like the Rams in this game, if the Rams go up, you might see a little more homer come in and get some of that passing game work. And if the team's driving, they're going to leave him inside the 5. They're not going to change the personnel if they've got the defense on their heels and allow the defense to make some changes. So Homer should definitely be in play there. Where do we struggle? Well, we're going to struggle with the receivers a little bit. Metcalf will probably see Jalen Ramsey. Pro Football Focus has his matchup rated as very poor this week. Metcalf hasn't done a ton yet this year anyway. He's scored 16 or more points in 3 or 4 games, but 16 points is not really what we're looking for Metcalf. We want 23, 24, 25. He's done that once against a bad Minnesota secondary, and the targets have been there the last 3 weeks, and he scored a touchdown in 3 or 4 games. Like, there's upside, and I wouldn't outwardly say don't have Metcalf in your player pool, but I'm going to underweight the field on Metcalf this week. I do think this is a Tyler Lockett kind of a game. If Jalen Ramsey is going to play towards DK Metcalf, then I do think we see some more production out of Lockett. He's got 4 or more receptions in every game this year. He had the 2 big games the first 2 weeks and has done what Tyler Lockett does, which is after a couple of big weeks, he goes dormant for a number of weeks. But he's always got that explosiveness, and he's got a much better matchup than DK Metcalf does. I do think there's an argument to be made for Freddie Swain to get a little bit of work. He doesn't get a ton of snaps, but when he's in there, he's mildly productive. He's got multiple games with 4 or more targets. When he scores, he puts up some points. He's not a massive downfield threat. He does have the 168-yard touchdown, but other than that, 13 and 10 were his long catches. So he's not a huge downfield threat, but if DK Metcalf is getting locked down, then maybe we'll see more attempts going towards Freddie Swain. And at his price point, you know, let's see, in the flex, Freddie Swain is $4,600. I mean, I prefer Jefferson over Swain, but I do think if you're going for a Seattle player at that price point, Swain is in a good position. Now, for the Seahawks, what do they do poorly? The Seahawks just play defense poorly right now. They've given up 300 or more passing yards in 3 straight games. I mean, including Tennessee and San Francisco, who are not known for their passing prowess. They've also given up over 140 rush yards in each of the last 3 games, 100 yards or more in every single game this year. Yikes. That's a big yikes. So who does that spell, you know, success for? Well, Darrell Henderson, for sure, is in play. He looks healthy. He had 90% of the snaps last week. I don't worry about Sony Michel. He's going to get, listen, he's gotten 13 or more carries every single week and 5 or more targets in each of the last 2 weeks. He hasn't had an explosive monster game yet, but Seattle's a really bad rushing defense. I mean, even last week, look what he did in Arizona. 6 targets and 14 attempts in a game that the Rams lost pretty handily. They still kept him very involved in the offense. They're not pulling him. He's Dalvin Cookie in the fact that, you know, if the team's down, they're going to keep him in the game and use him. They're not just going to yank him if the team is down and they put in their pass catching back. That's not what's going to happen. Henderson's going to get the snaps. I like him as a captain option. We already talked about Woods and Jefferson. I do think Cooper Kupp is another player I'm going to probably be underweight on to the field, simply because he's just I don't say he's overpriced, but he's very highly priced. He's going to be very popular. He was more expensive even than the quarterbacks. We saw last week I don't say he struggled, but he didn't put up a monster week like he did the first 3 weeks. Tons of targets, so they're going to keep looking for Kupp. But he's going to have a monster game to pay off his salary. I mean, that $12,400 is his flex price. In the captain spot, you're paying $18,600 for Cooper Kupp. That's expensive. From the quarterback position, obviously Stafford makes a ton of sense, especially if you're using Jefferson as your captain. If you're using a receiver as the captain, you want their quarterback to be one of your flexes, which is why I'm kind of avoiding Seattle players as Seattle pass catchers is my captain, because I'm not going to have a ton of Russell Wilson. I'll have some, and he'll actually probably be in the sample lineup we show here, but I'm underweighting the field a little bit on Wilson. I think they're going to struggle a little bit in this game, Seattle. But Stafford has got the volume. He's put up decent score in most of the games he's played, 2 or more touchdowns every single week. And again, Seattle not really good against the pass. I think Stafford very much is in play here. Wilson is fine. Like, he had 2 touchdowns last week. He had a good game last week, but only 22 fantasy points. Like, he hasn't really put up a monster game because he's not rushing the football very much. And, you know, he needed that touchdown last week to go over. I mean, the volume's not totally there. And even with Carson out, I think they're going to want to try to control the clock. And, you know, the Rams are worse against the run than the pass. I think they're going to try to run the ball with Alex Collins a little bit. And so I'm not sure the volume's going to be there with Russell Wilson. Also, Russell Wilson does like to run around and extend the play a little bit, and that could be a problem against the Rams defense. They've got 3 or more sacks, or 3 sacks exactly, in every single game this year. And so this is a team that can get in the backfield and disrupt a little bit. I do think the Rams are a sneaky play, their defense. I would stack them with Henderson. So if I was using Henderson as my captain, I'd use the Rams as my defense. For this stack, though, for this lineup, though, I do think I want to use Van Jefferson at his discounted price for my captain. I am going to get both quarterbacks, I believe, in there. I think I'll be able to fit them both. Tyler Lockett is going to go in there to pair up with Russell Wilson. And so I've got Jefferson Stafford stack and a Wilson Lockett stack. So if the game does turn into a passing game where Seattle does need to play catch up, I am going to have exposure there. And I'm actually, even though I like the Seahawks in this game a little bit, or not the Seahawks, the Rams in this game, I am going to throw another Seahawk in there with Travis Homer, which leaves me with $9,000, allows me to run Darrell Henderson out there because he is involved enough in the passing game that I think he's worth a shot there and is someone we can use. You could play a little bit differently and use Robert Woods here instead, and then you might be able to come up. Can you come up from Homer and do anything? I mean, you have Sony Michel, who doesn't really do much for me. I'd rather go up and use Darrell Henderson, who should see a bunch of work. You could play around a little bit if you don't want to use Russell Wilson, right? You don't use Wilson. Maybe then you go and use use Cooper Kupp because you've got enough money to make that work, and that actually works too. So then you're overloading on Rams, and you're expecting the Rams to absolutely blow out Seattle, and I think there's just a better chance of Wilson being able with the opportunity to run a little bit. I'd probably rather have him in this lineup than Kupp, so I have the correlation with Lockett. But either way, it fits. And so, you know, when in doubt, as we say at Bankster, make more lineups. So right now, the sample lineup that I'm using is Van Jefferson, who I really like as captain. And my main captain options for this game are going to be Jefferson, Collins, Lockett, and Darrell Henderson. Those are going to be the guys I'm looking at. Maybe the Rams defense a little bit if I want to fit someone else in. But those are pretty much the guys I'm looking at for captain. So it's Jefferson, Wilson, Stafford, Lockett, Homer, Henderson. Come on over to Prize Picks, and don't forget, you do get a 100% deposit bonus over at Prize Picks using the promo code Bankster on your first deposit up to $100. It's free money. I used that free money pretty liberally in the beginning of the year when I got it, and it was fun to be able to play around and make some lineups. So the way that I'm going to look at this game here is there are 3 plays that really stand out to me. I like Stafford 297.5 to go over. I actually think he's going to pass for another 300-yard game against Seattle, as each of the last 3 opponents have done, but 300 yards is a lot to call the over on, so I'm actually going to look at Russell Wilson and go with the under. The Rams, again, they've given up less than 250 passing yards in every all but one game this year, and I do think Seattle's going to try to establish the run because the Rams, if they struggle, is against the run, so I do think Russell Wilson taking the under there makes a little bit of sense. Rushing yards, I considered under on Russell Wilson rushing yards as well because he's only gone over 20 yards once all year, and 21.5 is a pretty big number, but with Chris Carson being out, they may want to incorporate a little bit more running with Wilson in the game. Let Collins do more of the inside running and Wilson do more of the outside running. And all it takes is one zone read to go over that number. So that frightens me a little bit. So I'd rather, and you can't do 2 player props on the same lineup. So I think I'd rather go with the Wilson passing under than the rushing under. You can't get that 21.5 yards, or you can get the 21.5 yards in one play. You can't get 266 passing yards in one play. So I'd rather not have one fluky play cost me. Darrell Henderson, we talked about the usage that he has and how bad Seattle has been against the rush. I do think he's just 90% of the snaps in a game where the Rams probably should be the favorite and look to be in a good spot here. I do like Darrell Henderson to go over that total. I would look for this prop to go away, the Chris Carson prop. If he gets ruled out, they won't count it. Like, you can't put the under. He has to play a snap in order for that to count. So if he's out, you can't be sneaky and put the under. They'll just remove it from your card. I would look for an Alex Collins prop in here, and if it's the same 43.5, I would actually go with it because the over, because I do think they're going to try to rush early to control the clock. Receiving wise, 84.5 is a little high for me for Kupp. I don't like the matchup for Metcalf, and I would consider the under here. We talked about my distrust in Robert Woods right now. I do like Lockett, but I think 66.5 is right on that line. Can't double up on the Henderson prop. Carson, I don't know if he's going to play, so it's not worth my time. I don't trust Swain to get enough targets, and I never know what Higbee's going to do. But Van Jefferson, we talked about, he can get that in one play. I do like the one play over potential, and so I'm going to take the over on that. Stafford just playing better when he targets Van Jefferson, so I'm going to roll with that here. Reception props, I don't like any of them. They all are a little high for my liking, but I'm not so high that I'm going to take the under. They're just kind of there. So I'm not going to roll that. I would say Darrell Henderson touchdown prop is in play for me, but you can't double up, so I can't take the Henderson rush yards. I'd rather take that. Again, if Alex Collins shows up here, I do think he has a shot for a rushing touchdown in this game. If Carson gets replaced with Collins, I do like that there. The one NFL first half bet I would consider putting on the card if I was able to go ahead and do that, because I can't double up again, I would consider the Russell Wilson under on the first half as well, because I do think 132.5, they're going to try to establish the run in the first half. I do think that Wilson then will take the under. You're just not going to get a ton of pass yards, but I'd rather go for the whole game depending upon seeing how the game's going to play out. Kind of looking at everything else. I don't love the rest of them, so I'm just going to go with the 3-player. I'm going to go with the Russell Wilson under passing yards, Darrell Henderson over, and Van Jefferson over. I'm going to take the flex play. So if I get 2 right, I get 1.25 times my money back. If I get all 3 right, I'm going to get 2.25 times my money. Throw that in for $7, place my entry, and hope to see an increase in my bankroll. You guys should definitely sign up as well. Again, promo code Bankster, get you 100% deposit bonus up to $100. We're heading over to Underdog Fantasy and look at some plays for today as well here. Similar plays, similar concept, except you have to get everything right that you put in. You can also, there's a link in the description box as well for this to get a $10 bonus over at Underdog. Underdog's a lot of fun because they have a lot of best ball and weekly snake drafts, and Underdog's a lot of fun. We're going to look at their pick'em right now. We already talked about that I like Darrell Henderson for the over, so I'm going to take that one again. I'm not going to do any of the Stafford props. The past yard prop is really high here at 308.5. Kupp's a little bit higher than it was over on Prize Picks. Woods is a little bit higher. I don't love it. Van Jefferson, we already talked about that I like the over 48, so I'll definitely take the over 46. The receptions for Van Jefferson's right on the lines. I'm not going to touch that. Higbee, not in love there. Russell Wilson, they do have 292.5 total yards, which is rushing plus passing. I'm going to take the under there as well. I like the under for the rushing. I like the under for the passing. In this case, I can kind of parlay those a little bit. And even if he gets a longer rush, if he goes under on the passing yards, we have a little bit of wiggle room there. So I'm going to take the under 292.5 total yards. I do think Tyler Lockett's going to have a good game again, but that 69.5 is kind of a big number. And the other area we can look at here, is rivals. And we can look at player versus player. Henderson, yards compared to Kupp. I don't love the player versus player ones in this case. Jefferson, I do think outdoes Woods, but I'll just take the 46.5 in case Woods has a good game. I don't have to have it, both happen. I do think Stafford outpasses Wilson by a lot, but again, I've already got a Wilson under prop, so I don't want to double up in case there's an issue there. Wilson could go under, but if Stafford goes for 150 yards for some reason and Wilson's at 240, I win the Wilson, but I would lose this one. I don't want to lose my card because of that. I definitely prefer the single player ones. These are fun, but I'd lock it over Metcalf. I mean, it could happen, especially with Metcalf being covered by Ramsey, but if Ramsey decides to go play Lockett, then Metcalf's a better bet for the reception prop. So I'm just going to take a 3-player here, and we're going to throw that in. I'm just going to throw a $5 bet in there for that one. $30 for the win. I do have to hit all 3, but that's fun. 6 times my money if I hit that, which is great. And again, use the promo code PHISIGGERS, PHISIGGERS. There is a link in the description box to get $10 free when you sign up for Underdog, where you can do their drafts too. There's a Thursday Night Rumble. There's one for single game for Sunday morning's game, the Week 5 Battle Royal, where you take the rest of the game on the main slate and you draft a 6-player team. A lot of fun. It's pretty good money there as well. A lot of fun there. Okay, folks. Hopefully this was helpful. We gave you some looks at Underdog, Prize Picks, DraftKings. FanDuel, I would use a similar strategy here, though I would put my captain as one of the quarterbacks because since they don't charge 1.5x for the price, but they do pay 1.5x points, I would put a quarterback in the Stafford in my captain and use similar thoughts here. Jefferson, Lockett, Henderson, Alex Collins is definitely in play. Higbee's a little more in play there. So I'd take a look there. You might be able to fit Wilson in a lineup too if you go cheap enough with Collins. So I do think those guys are in play for FanDuel. Hopefully this was helpful. Thank you for taking the time to hang out with me here on Thursday to get ready for the Thursday night slate. And don't forget, you can get more Bankster DFS content for $3.99 per week over at banksterdfs.com/subscribe, where we give you everything we do: Slack chat, player pools, articles, live streams for members only for all the sports, major sports, college sports, niche sports, for less than $4 a week. $3.99 per week gets you everything. Please make sure you like, share, subscribe while you're here. Send me a message on Twitter to say hi at Bankster17. And again, banksterdfs.com/subscribe to sign up. My name has been and will continue to be Doug Shane. Thank you for taking the time to spend your Thursday with me. We will see you shortly. Have a wonderful day.